Rule number 70. The infinitive is used for the imperfect tense in narration, with its subject in the nominative case. One of the more unusual uses of the infinitive is this so-called historical infinitive. In short, instead of a sentence like Puella e conspectu fugiebat, the girl was fleeing or would flee from sight, where the main verb here is the imperfect fugiebat, we can instead use the infinitive fugere and have the same sort of meaning. Puella e conspectu fugere. Notice that our subject is still in the nominative case, puella, even though our verb is an infinitive. And usually the subject of an infinitive is in the accusative case, see Rule 39. We call this infinitive historical, not because it shows historical facts, it is used more to describe events, but because it is most frequently used by writers of history, even though it's found in essentially all forms of literature. From Caesar's Gallic War, Book 1, Quotidie Caesar Aeduos frumentum flagitare. Every day Caesar was demanding grain from the Aedui. Flagitare takes two accusatives, that's rule number 38 by the way, and it's our historical infinitive with a nominative subject. And here's this example from the Aeneid. Pars ducere muros, molirique arcem, et manibus subovere saxa. Some were leading out walls and constructing a citadel and rolling rocks with their hands. The pars, here translated as some, is our nominative subject of three different historical infinitives. In fact, this passage continues with two more of these infinitives. And here's one from Cicero. Ego instare ut mihi responderet. I kept urging him to answer me. Ego is the nominative subject of the historical infinitive instare. There are a couple of peculiarities with the historical infinitive. First, it's not usually found just once by itself, so my examples above aren't necessarily complete. And we see in Plautus, Imperator Jovi vota suscipere hortari exercitum. The general began the offerings to Jupiter and encouraged his army. Imperator is our nominative subject with the historical infinitives suscipere and the deponent hortari. Also, the historical infinitive isn't really used in passive forms, especially in early Latin like Plautus and Terence. Only later, in literary Latin, does the passive use begin, presumably as authors are able to experiment with an already developed part of the language. And we see this infinitive used by authors to paint a vivid scene very easily, kind of like that example above about the Carthaginians from Carthage. And here's one last example from Sallust. Tum spectaculum horribile in campis patentibus, sequi, fugere, occidi, capi. Then a dreadful scene in the open fields. Men were following, men were fleeing, men were killed, men were captured. And we might get a clue to understand the historical infinitive with this example. Infinitives are originally nouns representing an action, and so here they are functioning in a way in apposition, and that's rule number 1, to the noun spectaculum. Here, let's change around my translation just a little bit to show just the action represented by the first two infinitives, pursuit for sequi and flight for fugere. Some grammarians suggest that the historical infinitive arose as a complementary infinitive with an understood coipet, which means began, or some other word. So Quintilian suggests that stupere gaudio Graecus, the Greek was stunned with joy, actually needs a coipet. The Greek began to be stunned with joy. But in the end, the origin of the historical infinitive is uncertain. So this has been rule number 70. The infinitive is used for the imperfect tense in narration with its subject in the nominative case.